All right. Good morning to everybody. This is your boy Malcolm Locks everywhere, and y'all know the vibes. Once again, we are here with the Principal Protocol, where we talk about business, technology, politics, and all the things. And today, we're talking about entrepreneurship. We're really focusing on entrepreneurship, and my goal is to really showcase how Sussex County is really doing some amazing things, and we need to connect those dots to Newcastle County, right? So I have a wonderful gentleman on a podcast with me today. I first met him in Leadership, Delaware. We went down to Sussex County, and he came and he told us about all the great things that he's doing down in Sussex County. He owns a plethora of McDonald's, and not just a plethora of McDonald's, obviously other things as well. Definitely in the hospitality market. Great guy. Wonderful to talk to, Mr. Michael Meoli. Thank you so much for coming today.
Malcolm, good morning. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I just want to really have a conversation about, just entrepreneurship and just, I really want to dive deep into your story and how you got to where you are right now. We could talk about some of the other things a little bit later, but Mike, tell the people who you are, where you come from. What is your roots?
Well, my roots, I was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
I grew up in Harford County, Maryland, but I've been living in Sussex County, Delaware for 33 years now. And so my primary role obviously is a McDonald's owner or operator. I am a second generation. So my father and uncle started their first McDonald's restaurant in Edgewood, Maryland in 1972.
Ooh, before I was born.
Yeah, 1972. So it's been we're coming up on 52 years in the business.
Congratulations.
And I grew up in it, and worked in the restaurants as a kid, growing up during college, and I kind of went full time. I had a little stint where I left McDonald's for just a little while, went into the hotel business, kind of got a feel for something different, which I think was a really very important part of my development, is to see what else is out there. And to know that, I had what it takes to be able to do something other than a traditional family business. And so I think that was really part of my development and maturation process. And then so I've been down here for 33 years, and 30 of them as an approved owner operator of my own. Over the years, I bought out my father, and I currently have 25 McDonald's restaurants, getting ready to start number 26 here soon. We're hoping to break ground by September this year in Milton, Delaware, another Sussex County restaurant.
Awesome.
And then I also, and we can talk about it later, I also, I put that experience that I had in the hotel industry into use, and I've also built and developed 4 hotels. Wow. 2 in the Marriott franchise, 2 on the Hilton franchise. 2 I've sold, and I currently own 2 hotels right now.
Wow. 25 McDonald's and 4 hotels. That's a huge undertaking. And congratulations on 52 years of being in business. That's an amazing undertaking. Now, I want to just kind of talk about, you spoke about how your father, kind of got you into the business and kind of, molded you, right? Just explain how important it was for you to get those lessons from your father moving into, owning, operating McDonald's.
It's critical. I mean, you have to, in McDonald's, we call it having ketchup in our veins. And, that's what we say. And I've had ketchup in my veins, since I was a kid. I mean, I would, as a normal kid, I just wanted to be with my dad. I wanted to be around him. I wanted to be with him. And when he was building this business, he was working all the time. He had not a single day off the first year when he opened his first restaurant, and he would work, 12, 13 hours a day for every day for a year. So if I wanted to see him, then I needed to be with him in the restaurant. And that's why I would beg him to take me into the stores. And I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I do all the crappy jobs that nobody else wanted to do. And so, and I was this, 9-year-old kid running around the back area. All the other employees were like, "Get this kid out of here. He's crazy." And, but I couldn't get enough of it. But so I just developed this appreciation for the business. early on as a kid and just loved it. And I watched everything my father did. I watched his style. I watched how he interacted with people.
Mhm.
By the time I was 16, 17 years old, I was an assistant manager in the summertime. You know,
Wow.
I was doing these things because it was second nature to me at that point. I mean,
Right.
I could run all these stations and do everything. But the one probably the natural knack that I had, or at least what I learned from my father, is really dealing with people. And I will tell you, in the McDonald's business, those who are
It's
successful at it
critical.
understand that at the core of it, it's a people business.
Hmm.
So whether it's on the customer side of the counter or on the crew and manager side of the counter, all you're doing is dealing with dozens and dozens and dozens of people every single day, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of people every single day.
Hmm.
Um, if you're mistaken that you're not in the people business in McDonald's in particular, you're probably in the wrong business.
100%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And I really want to talk about a little bit later on, like relationship management, especially matter of fact, we kind of go into it now. You potentially managing so many people on a daily basis. What are the skills that you feel like, and for any other leader who might be, trying to step up in whether it be corporate or as an entrepreneur, what are some of the things you feel like you need in order to really manage people and keep their morale up, right? Because I know there's a lot of dynamics and nuances when managing people. What are some of the skills that you think people need to really manage other people?
There's a lot of things. First of all, you've got to be able to communicate. You,
Hmm.
you have to be able to communicate with people, understand. I think you need to learn, whether it's managing people or understanding customers. In today's world, you've got to be willing to meet people where they are. Right.
Hmm.
Long gone are the days where, like, here's the rules. This is what we got. Step in line or else.
Hmm.
You've got to find a different way. You've got to be compassionate. You've got to treat people respectfully. I think you have to be empathetic to their situations nowadays.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot of the folks that work for me. There's a lot of things that are in their lives that we all love to wave our magic wand and think, check all your problems at the door when you come to work. Um,
Impossible.
Impossible. And so, some of their troubles become mine to a degree if I want to be able to keep them on. And these things are all important, I think. But at the core, it's really how you treat people, and just knowing that sometimes you're going to have to, life is a series of yield signs.
Ooh.
Sometimes I got to yield. It's not about stop or go. Sometimes, no, I got to let you go this time. You let me go this time. And the sooner you wrap your arms around that, I think the better or more successful you're going to be.
Man, I need to write that one down. That was a good one.
You
That
started
was a
it
good
too.
one. Yeah, that was a good one. So I mean, 52 years you guys have been in business, and I want to talk about it too. Me watching the movie The Founder really shed a lot of light on me understanding McDonald's, and McDonald's is like their business model is very interesting. So, with you being in business for 52 years, how have you seen McDonald's evolve over the years? I mean, what's it, 50s was like 1960 some odd, right? So, how have you seen McDonald's evolve over time?
Ugh. Well, there's a lot of things. Keep in mind that McDonald's is a system. It's a formula for lack of better. So, as a franchisee, my job is to run the play. Run the play, and you see McDonald's started out. I mean, just at its core, it was a kind of a drive up, walk up kind of a
Hmm.
restaurant.
Hmm.
In the late 60s, the building changed a little more, but let's invite you inside the restaurant. So
Hmm.
let's come on inside. There was lobbies. By the early 70s, now we've got drive-throughs.
Hmm.
Okay. Started out just selling hamburgers, French fries, drinks, and milkshakes. Okay. All of a sudden we evolved to bigger burgers. Then you brought in breakfast. Then you bring in nuggets. Then you bring in chicken. Then you bring in these others areas. So this constant evolution of, really, again, it's about understanding what the customer wants. It's a little bit different than, when Steve Jobs created the iPhone. The customer didn't
Right.
know what they want. He said,
Right.
"This is what you want."
Right.
And they're like,
Total
"Oh, yeah, that
millennial.
makes sense. Never thought of it before."
Right.
That's not McDonald's. McDonald's is kind of saying, this is where our customers are going. We need to be there for them.
Right.
And so, and now, the evolution in these last couple of years into technology has changed
Mm-hmm.
everything. So you look at mobile order pay,
Mm-hmm.
you look at delivery, you look at what technology allows us to do right now in this business, and you the sky's the limit. I mean, all of a sudden it's just wide open. I mean, just take, for instance, like let's look at like mobile order pay. I mean, so if you go onto the McDonald's app right now and you order, that order is held in the cloud for 24 hours. It sits in the cloud for 24 hours. When you come within the geo fence around the restaurant, there's a geo fence around every McDonald's restaurant, and we can set the parameters. I can set that for a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles away. So when you come into that geo fence area, it's going to send you a push notification to your phone and say, "Hey, we see you've ordered, your egg McMuffin and your small orange juice. Do you want to place the order now?" Let's say you're coming into the geo fence around the Rehoboth McDonald's, and you actually don't want to stop at Rehoboth. You actually you're going down Route 24. You want to stop at the Long next door, and you would say no. When you come into the geo fence of the Long next door, it's going to ask you again, do you want to stop? This time you say yes. It's going to ask you, do you want to come inside? Or do you want to go through drive-through or curbside? Technology allows us to do this, and right now we're trying to do everything we can. Customers need to go to the app, order on the app. You place the order, so the accuracy is yours, right?
Right.
We're not gonna mess it up because you placed the order, you paid for it. We're not gonna mess that up. So all you have to do is either go through the drive-through. We encourage you to go through curbside, pull into a curbside spot, ready on arrival. So because we've got a head start because we make your order as soon as you come in a mile or two. So by the time you pull into that spot, we should be walking right out with it. And this is what technology has done. And we're not alone. All our competitors have the same technology.
Right.
We like to think that ours is a little bit better, and just based on our volume, we do it better. But that's really how McDonald's has evolved over the last 50 years.
Now, so there's so many people, because I'm like huge on technology. And so many people are like, man, technology, AI, jobs, technology, AI, jobs. What's your personal stance on that, right? Because I know I look at it on both sides, right? We're talking about as you implement more and more technology, there's opportunities to create more opportunities. And then on the other side, if people don't learn the technology, they're going to miss out on opportunities. So kind of like, where's your stance on that? And how do you balance that as an owner operator at McDonald's?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, McDonald's is a very labor-intensive business.
Right.
Always has been, and I think to some degree, always will be. Obviously, we're all following very closely the costs of labor.
Right.
And that reality of if technology becomes at parity or even cheaper than labor, which one's going to win? Mm-hmm. And so we battle that. I can tell you that in my organization right now, over the last all these years, and I've seen my average wage, just jump. I mean, we're in Delaware, we're going to be at 15, but next year, my Maryland stores are already at $15 an hour.
Oh, wow.
So when you've got if you've got a 15 or 16-year-old, making 15, that means the manager's making 18, 19. That means your senior manager, your department leaders, they're making $21, $22 an hour. General managers are making 65, 70,000 to start with. These are just base salaries before any incentives. So you look at this and go, wow, this is really labor intensive. Does technology allow us to reduce labor? For me, I'll speak for myself. Mm-hmm. At this stage, even with the large rates in pay, I've not been able to. What I've done is I've shifted the labor to different parts of the restaurant. So you will walk into some of my restaurants right now, and most likely you'll see one person on the counter. 5 years ago, you would have seen 2 or 3 or more.
Right.
But what we've done was with that technology that I told you about, DoorDash, delivery, mobile order pay.
Right.
So all these omni channels now that are bringing a business into the store in a different way. I need more people elsewhere in the restaurant. I need you in the kitchen. I need you preparing DoorDash orders. I need you in the drive-through because drive-through has picked up so much, especially post-COVID. My average drive-through in my restaurant, my organization is 74%. 74% of my business is drive-through.
And that's what all of the McDonald's combined?
All of my 25 stores. My average is 74% of the business is through the drive-through. Wow. So I've taken people, so people might walk in and say, oh, you only have one, you're definitely cutting out people because you only have one person on your counter. No, I've moved the other 2 or 3 that were used to be there to the back of the kitchen. So at this point, I really haven't been able to see much of a reduction in labor. I think at some point you will see that. I think it's just going to be kind of AI is kind of going to force that issue. But I think the biggest thing with AI in the short term in McDonald's really could be ordering through a drive-through. We're probably not terribly far down the road where you would pull into a drive-through if you didn't use your app, which I encourage everybody to do. But if you didn't do that and you pulled into a drive-through, you might have a Siri-like AI taking your order instead of a person. That technology is not quite ready yet, but that might be the future.
Do you think that the technology would get to the point where it would somewhat based off of the actions of the customer, they start kind of like predicting their order?
I think that's certainly possible. I mean, I think the technology probably exists. I think it does exist, where it recognizes, if it picks up your phone, it might recognize exactly who you are. So just, hey, do you want to put in your normal order? We're not there right now, and I don't know at what point, because so much of the push really is to use the app, and you're starting to see that in some stores right now. I can tell you, I've been to a couple of McDonald's restaurants, not around here, other areas where there isn't anybody on the front counter. I mean, the idea is if you want, similar to a Wawa, if you want to order at Wawa, if you want to order food at a Wawa, you don't
talk to people. You're pushing buttons.
If you can't figure out the order on that screen, then you're not ordering anything from that kitchen.
100%.
And so we're not going there with McDonald's. We're not going to be there anytime soon. But we're definitely getting to a point where we're trying to encourage the customer, use your phone or use the kiosk. The outcomes are going to be better in terms of accuracy, paying for everybody, and speed. Right.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm heavy into the technology side, so I'm always curious and fascinated as to what the bigger companies are and how they're utilizing the technology to make things more efficient and make the processes more efficient. Now, let me ask you a question around, how your McDonald's has affected Sussex County. When we're talking about East Sussex and we're talking about West Sussex, two completely different places, right? Yeah. So how do you feel as though, in terms of like economic development and really helping to pick up the development of the economics in Sussex, how do you feel like your McDonald's has helped to do that?
Well, certainly in terms of providing jobs, we're out there, and that's probably similar across both sides of the county. You are correct. East and West Sussex, I mean, they could almost be two counties. The way they are in so many ways. I think the most important thing that I would say, Malcolm, for me personally is that my restaurants on both sides of the county do very well. I mean, so my Rehoboth Beach restaurant is I think it's the second highest volume store in the state. That restaurant I don't own, the restaurant up in Bear, Delaware, is number one. The Ducart family owns that.
Really?
One. Yeah, I keep trying to catch them, and I just can't catch those boys. They do quite a business up there.
I live right up the street from that one.
Yeah. That's the highest volume in the state. Rehoboth's number two, but my McDonald's restaurant in Seaford is number three, and then Milford's number four. So when you look at the volumes of the 38 or 40 McDonald's restaurants across the state of Delaware, it really is very evenly balanced. And I think so more than it is about volume and providing the jobs, what it does is, where I can make a difference or use McDonald's to make a difference, is really the philanthropy philosophy of me. So we were just able to give a sizable donation to the Sussex Montessori School in Seaford. I was very proud to do that. Very happy to do that. Very proud to do that. A significant gift to Tidal Health, the old Nanticoke Hospital, Tidal Health, for their cancer department. We were able to do that. Just made a decent sized gift to the Nemours Children's Center in Milford.
We love Nemours. We love Nemours.
Exactly. We just did a new audiology center. We were able to help fund a new audiology booth at Nemours right there in Milford. That probably makes me the proudest, that the business is vibrant enough where it's important. It's just always been my philosophy. You put it back, and when you put it back, it comes back to you.
Yes, it does.
Threefold, tenfold. It's tenfold. I don't care what it is. It's the right thing to do, and I think that's how we've affected all the county.
One wonderful stuff, man. Like I said, we love Nemours here in Delaware.
Yep.
So, and thank you for that, because philanthropy, we just need more of it, right? So now, with that being said, let's just say I'm like, oh man, I want a McDonald's. What is the regular person? I'm like, man, I want to get into McDonald's. I want a McDonald's. What am I doing? What am I doing? What are the steps that I'm taking to get in McDonald's?
Well, it's not an easy process. I
know it's not.
It's not a closed society, but it's not far away from one. I'll tell you what, right now at this moment in time is probably the best opportunity to get a McDonald's franchise. What happened in, I mean, like when you look across the state of Delaware, the same people that owned, there was 2 stores in the very bottom of Delaware that were a new owner operator picked those 2 stores up. Other than that, the same people have owned the stores in Delaware for years.
Really?
Yeah, many years. But what happened after post-COVID, McDonald's actually, McDonald's did fairly well to COVID. Obviously, contactless, drive-through. And so 2021 in particular was a really, really good year for the business. That, the inflationary costs hadn't quite hit yet.
Right.
In terms of food, in terms of labor, in terms of utilities, that all happened in 22 and 23. But in 21, everything was pretty good. And what you had was a number of operators who, if they didn't have next generation coming into the business, kids coming into the business, if they were kind of older, it was probably the best year for them to sell. And what you saw in 21 was hundreds of owner operators across the U.S. system decided to retire. So those of us who were in the system pretty much bought up all their restaurants. And so while that was good for those in the system, what happens is that pool of potential buyers in the future for those of us who are left shrunk. And that's a potential problem. In any business, you never get into a business without an exit strategy. How do you get out of it? Right? How do you get out of it? Or how do you pass it on? And so at this moment in time, kind of building that operator pipeline is something that's happening. So I know McDonald's is been more aggressive in looking for what they call registered applicants, people to come into the business. The requirements are pretty stiff. The financial requirements are stiff. The background, what you've done, what you're willing to commit to the restaurants. But it's an amazing business. I can't imagine my life not being a McDonald's owner operator. It's been the most rewarding thing I can ever imagined. I love doing it.
Is there a possibility for multiple people to own one McDonald's, or is it just, hey, it's one owner operator per McDonald's?
Great question. At this moment in time, there's no institutional money in a McDonald's. So there's no, hey, like if I wanted to go out to maybe there's a patch of restaurants someplace that I wanted to buy, but I didn't quite have the money. I can't go to a group of investors and say, hey, will you back me to buy this?
Interesting.
It doesn't work that way. I have to be able to finance it, to pay for it, to operate it on my no management companies. No, you are a true owner operator in this business as it stands today. And I hope it stays that way for a long time.
Wow. That's information that I did not know.
Yep.
Wow. Didn't know that. Now let's go back to where I was talking about the movie, The Founder, earlier, right? First off, thoughts. Just overall thoughts of the movie. Was it accurate, inaccurate? Where were some of the discrepancies in that movie that you've seen as an owner operator of McDonald's?
Yeah, well, I never knew Ray Kroc. My father did. So my father knew Ray Kroc. I never had the chance to meet him. I'm told that it's fairly accurate. I think there was a little bit of
fluff,
theatrical license,
right?
Or whatever. I'm sure some of that was there. I think at its core, it was very accurate, and the core takeaways were really the maniacal operational perfection of the original McDonald's brothers. That is accurate in the very beginning. And when Ray Kroc and Fred Turner came into the business, same, just relentless on operational standards. How they chose the operators in the beginning, that was accurate. And then, of course, probably the key takeaway of that movie is really the structure of really how McDonald's operates. Because McDonald's, when Sonnenborn, I think was his name, the young accountant or attorney said, Mr. Kroc, you're making all these guys rich. I think in fact, I believe that the stat that but I think the biggest takeaway was when McDonald's decided to own the dirt.
Right. I want to talk about that.
When they decided we're going to own the dirt and we're going to basically charge rent to the operators, everything changed after that. And that's when that was a really key part of the movie that was obviously very accurate.
So can you talk about that a little bit? Like when they figured out owning the dirt, how much of a game changer was like, oh, we need to own the dirt, right? Because I know that there's multiple franchises who really took after McDonald's in terms of like owning their dirt. How much of a game changer was that particular decision?
Well, it was obviously a huge game changer for McDonald's Corporation and for Ray Kroc personally. And the interesting thing about it is that most franchises don't do that. McDonald's is kind of unique in the fact that the company buys the land, does most of the development, and they own most of the costs in the actual building itself. Not all of them, but most of them. And then there's they basically they're reimbursed over a 20-year period really for those costs. That's really the kind of core model. Most of our competitors is the opposite. The franchisee owns the land. The franchisee, like on the hotel side, it's all on me. I find the property. I do the due diligence in finding the right site. I contract with the contractor. I walk through the whole permitting stage by myself. I reach out to Hilton or Marriott, and I have to get them to approve everything. But all the work is on my side. All the diligence is on my side. So
is it? And it's not the same when you're looking for McDonald's. They do it, or do you initially do the work?
Completely different. I have brought McDonald's one site. Of my 25 restaurants, I brought them one of the sites. I said, here's a site you need to be in. You need to make this happen. And they're like, yep, we need to be there. Other than that, every other site, it's them usually coming to me and say, hey, we're looking at an area. We think we have an area right here. And they don't share a whole lot until they get close to kind of making a deal's done. And I understand the reason why. The complexity of sharing a lot with the operator ahead of time is there's no guarantees that I'm going to be the person who's the operator. So if there's other operators in the area, they're not going to come to me and say, hey, Mike, we're looking in your area, and not tell the other people, or vice versa, or tell all three and get all three of us excited because only one of them is getting the store. So I understand how the process works.
Wow. I didn't know that that's how it went. Like I thought that I just thought it was the other way around. That's so interesting. What are in terms of where you kind of see McDonald's going, because I kind of want to shift it to some hospitality things. Where do you see McDonald's going? Like we're right now in 2024. We know how the world is working right now. Where do you see McDonald's going? Where is Mike going with McDonald's? Like, where do you see this business going?
I think it's going in really kind of the momentum that it's on right now, in terms of, great strides in, through delivery, through the technology, through the mobile order pay. Look, McDonald's is, we really, there is such a strong demand for brand McDonald's, and it's solid right now. And I think we're connecting with so many various layers of customers. From, you look at the young people with some of the celebrity trays and celebrity connections that we've had in the last couple of years that have done very well. McDonald's has been very connected to that teenager and that younger group right now. But then, remember last year we brought back the Hamburglar and some of the old characters. We brought them back.
I was excited to see the Hamburglar. That's where I grew up on. I was excited to see that.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you kind of reconnected with folks in their 50s and 60s and maybe even 70s who remember all that. And that was good. So I think we're appealing to a really broad range of customers. I don't see that stopping. Obviously our competitors are out there. They're strong. They're smart. They're doing, their operations are improving, but so are ours. And McDonald's is going to be around a long time. Look, Ray Kroc said it on a show 40 years ago. He was asked, I think it was Phil Donahue or somebody asked him, what's McDonald's going to be selling, 40 years from now? And Ray Kroc's answer was, I have no idea, but I guarantee you this: we'll be selling more than anybody else. And that's the truth. And I think that still stands for whatever. We may or may not be selling Big Macs 40 years from now. I have no idea. But because of our locations and because of our franchisees, and the way we operate these restaurants across this country, McDonald's is going to be around, and we're going to be a player for a long time.
For a long time. That just cued another question in my mind. Systems and processes, right? We can't miss that. I feel like McDonald's is the king of systems and processes, right? With you and your leadership, right? And seeing which direction that McDonald's is going, right? How have you saw the systems and processes evolve over time? That was something I wanted to ask you a little bit earlier, because, watching the movie, I paid attention to that. Like, McDonald's has a system for this and a process for that. And I feel like it kind of revolutionized, when you're talking about fast food, but not just fast food, just corporations overall in terms of systems and processes, right? For you, how does all those systems and processes keep you moving? And how do you understand it all to keep McDonald's moving?
Well, again, there's some of the systems, they're tweaked. It's still the same, it's still hamburgers and French fries and serving great drinks, and so all those things are the same. The way that we serve things, may change. So equipment changes, equipment upgrades. Obviously, technology changes a whole lot. As I said, the way we do things. But the system for the most part stays the same. I mean, it really is about fast, accurate, and friendly. It's going to be about drive-through. Who knows? I mean, is there a world where, drones pick up food and take them someplace? I don't know. I mean,
that's on the way. It's on the way.
Who knows? Right. I mean,
on the way.
Automatic cars. Or is there a system where, we put, McDonald's food goes in an automatic car and it just drives it to people as opposed to, standard delivery? I don't know, but, we will evolve as the systems, in our culture evolve. And I still think we're going to be doing it better than anybody else.
Sheesh. Crazy. 25 McDonald's in Sussex County. Now, in addition to the 25 McDonald's in Sussex County, you have
Sussex and Kent.
Sussex and Kent County.
I've got 7 stores in Kent County.
Nothing in Newcastle at the moment.
No.
No,
there's my friends are in the way up there.
Okay.
My friends, the Ducarts and the Rawdons aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They have all the Newcastle County stores and the Dones. So there's some other folks up there, but no, there's no room for me up there. So
listen, you got
kids in Sussex down here.
Right. That's right. Because you already got all of it, right? So what now? Like I was saying, shifting over to the hospitality side, 4 hotels. You sold 2, 4 altogether. You sold 2. You still own 2. Just talk about how did you even get into that? Did you have an idea? Did somebody bring it to you? How hotels? Because when you talk about businesses, that's definitely not at the top, right? So how did that come about?
Well, first of all, when you think about hotels and McDonald's, again, it's hospitality. It is delivering to the customer what you said you were going to deliver. Whether it's a fresh, hot, fast hamburger, or it's a clean, great room in a modern, relevant, well-kept environment. It's just it's customer service, and it just kind of delivered in 2 different ways. And so it comes easy to me. I will tell you, my fascination with hotels started going on with my folks when I was a kid on McDonald's conventions. So we would go to different McDonald's meetings and conventions, and my parents would bring me. And a lot of times,
I think the one time that I called you, weren't you in Vegas for a convention?
Yeah, So whether it's Vegas, hotels, and different places, and I was always fascinated with these beautiful places. I grew up in Harford County, Maryland. It wasn't anything fancy there. So also
nothing at all.
Orlando, where we go to these places, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty fancy hotel. I really like this. And actually, believe it or not, I went to a small school in West Virginia, Shepherd University.
I've heard of it.
Right. And just over the Maryland line in West Virginia. And I majored in business, but with a concentration in hotel restaurant management. So, I mean, I put both of those things to good use in my life.
You did.
And so we had the opportunity in, I don't know, it was 2000, I think, 1999, 2000. My McDonald's restaurant on the corner of Route 24. There was an old bait and tackle shop on the corner. Then there was a McDonald's, then a vacant parking lot. And we had owned, my father and I owned all 3 parcels.
Oh.
And it was time to clean these things up.
Right.
And so what made sense was let's get rid of the bait and tackle shop. Let's move the McDonald's to the corner. That left us with a 2-acre piece of property for something else. And my father, when he was in business before he came down here, he and my uncle were in the McDonald's business. When they sold those restaurants, my uncle went off to the hotel side and opened up a number of hotels. So he was our connection into, at that time, was Hilton. So he put us in touch with the Hilton people, and we said we'd like to develop a Hampton Inn. And so we developed a Hampton Inn right next to McDonald's. A perfect synergy in so many ways.
In so many ways,
which is perfect. So, not only do you have an 86, almost 90 room hotel right next to McDonald's, so you've got some built-in synergy of people that get hungry at nighttime and that whole thing. But we situated the restaurant so that one was on this end, one was on this end, and there was a sea of parking in the middle. Well, think about it. McDonald's, that store, one of the highest volume restaurants in the state, the hotel's empty during the day. So we had all this overflow parking during the day. If the hotel needed extra at night, they had stuff on McDonald's at night. It worked out brilliantly, and it was one of the best moves I've ever made in terms of, I did sell that hotel, which was something I didn't really want to do, but we did end up selling that hotel, which if there were 4 or 5 things in my life that I'd love a do-over on, that would be one of them. I wish we hadn't flipped that one off, but things happen.
And that kind of goes into another question before we keep going into the hotel pieces. What were some of you said 4 or 5, right? In terms of the business, right? And that was one. I'm
not going to tell you the top 3. No, in business I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm curious to know, because we could learn from mistakes just as much you can learn from successes as well. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, you had a hotel right next. That is, I don't even know if you could get any more perfect than that.
It was really a good scenario. And McDonald's is, the hotels are a good diversification play.
Right.
Because it's, I don't know if it's wise to have everything in one basket. The situation with McDonald's, though, that becomes a little difficult is, the expectation as an owner operator of McDonald's is you're going to devote your best efforts to McDonald's business. And I clearly do. I don't operate the hotels. I have a management company that operates them.
Right.
McDonald's is what I do. It is my absolute full-time job, and I love doing it. But it is also wise to diversify. I mean, COVID taught us that big time. If I only owned hotels during COVID, I would have been a punch in the mouth. That would have been a punch in the mouth.
Yes.
Anyway, so it is a good. It works out very well for me. I don't have any near-term plans right now on the hotel side. Just opened the one up in Frederica.
Right. And that that's the one across from DE Turf.
Yeah, right across the street. So that store, that hotel, and it's doing very well. I'm very pleased. We didn't get it open until the end of the summer, so we've had an off season to go. But I'm very pleased with how well that's going so far. And of course, we're getting into the DE Turf season. We've got some good business from the Air Force Base and from other generators, and the goal now is to try and get some other folks to join us there. I'd love to have a restaurant bar out in front, something along that line. So
you talked about earlier making sure that you have an exit strategy whenever you get into any business, right? Yeah. To any entrepreneur who's watching, because sometimes when people create businesses, it's like their baby, right? And it's like, I never want to give it up. And especially, and I'll be transparent when it comes to, the Black and brown community, that's how we see our businesses. We see them as our babies, and we don't want to give them up. Where I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he talked about, wealth can be created on an exit, right? So can you kind of talk about what does an exit look like, and how do you kind of structure a deal around exiting a business?
You just said something that's really important, because the exit strategy in a hotel versus McDonald's is the exit strategy could be similar, but the way those things work, hotels. Look, on the hotel side, you're either in the hotel business or you're in the business of hotels. They're two very different things. If you're entrenched in the hotel business, then the idea is, you want to kind of make money as you're going along. If you're in the business of hotels, there's a good chance that you're just building these things or buying these things to hold for a time, and when the time is right, you flip it. and you just keep, because that's when you pull the money out of it. So that to your exit. So you're making money really when you sell the asset, not as much when you're in it. Depreciation, debt, all these things kind of have a lot to do with it. McDonald's is very different. McDonald's is really, for all the reasons I said, you don't just flip McDonald's. It doesn't work that way. I can, like, if I wanted to buy a hotel or someplace right now, there's 100 of them across the country that are for sale. If I want to go find one, and I can do one here. That's not the way it works at McDonald's. Once you're in, you don't get out, because once you get out, you're not getting back in. And you don't just get to pick and choose, where you want. It doesn't work. You need the synergy in McDonald's. Because you've got to have above property level people, supervisors and directors, and trying to do that in multiple places just doesn't work. You've got to have a kind of a critical mass of restaurants. And so in terms of exit strategy, the most important thing is, who's your buyer? Who's your buyer? Is there going to be a pool of buyers who are going to be willing to pay you, the dollars or the multiples that you want when it's time to sell? And is there going to be somebody there to buy your business? And does your business have value? What are you doing along the way? Are you reinvesting in the business? Are you investing in your people, right? And what does your community look like? All of these things go into it, but you just, especially at certain times of your life too. I mean, 30 or 40, okay, maybe the exit strategy isn't as important. By 60 or 70, you need to be thinking about that. So am I a buyer? Am I going to be a seller? Am I going to transition this business to one of my children? Is there a key employee who's been with me for 20, 30, 40 years that has been able to save, either through an investment plan or something, enough money to take it over? You look at companies that are now employee owned, large companies, 10, 12, 20 restaurants, local, they aren't franchised. They become employee owned, and when the owner just doesn't have heirs, and just say, okay, now the employees own this company. So there's a lot of things to consider there, but it's really important.
And now I'm glad you said that, because that makes me think, how is there a strategy, going back to McDonald's, is there a strategy for your employees to become owner operators? And do you have employees that want to become owner operators? That's first. And then if they do, and they're really serious about it, what's that strategy for them to become an owner operator? Like, hey, I'm owning my own McDonald's and I'm working it completely. It's all the way mine.
Yeah. I think there are certain employees of mine that would love to. The strategy really is getting up through the management ranks. So getting into that, and then if you've identified someone, I mean, let's just say I've got a really good hotshot, young manager or a supervisor that really wants to be an operator. Then there are strategies in terms of helping invest for them. So it can be money put into some other pool where it's growing. You're helping invest. So it's a part of their compensation that's just kind of put aside for them that can grow, so they can develop the capital to be able to do that. The reality is I don't know the percentage, but if I had to guess, I don't know, it's 20-30% of the system of the 1,500 operators. I think it's probably a reasonable guess. 20% started as crew. I mean, owner operators, and so almost 50% of the owner operators today are either next generation or crew, but a lot of it's next generation. But if truly people started as crew, some of my best friends, some of my best owner operator friends across the East Coast and other parts of the country, literally started. This was a part-time job, no intention of making a career. They liked it. I'm pretty good at this. I become a manager. Maybe I go to college to do something else, but I'm like, you know what? I'm making a lot of money at this. I'm doing well at this. Next thing you know, they've been able to get themselves in a position where they can buy a restaurant. And some of them are they own 10, 20, 30 restaurants. And they started out 16 years old, 18 years old, with no intention of making a career out of it. It's still that American dream of McDonald's is still so very much alive and well.
And I'm glad you talked about that, right? Because you talked about some of your best friends, hence your relationships, right? How critical is relationships when it comes to owning, operating McDonald's? You have multiple hotels. relationships are critical. And it's so funny because as I'm growing older and getting more experience, and a lot of stuff that I thought was cliche isn't as cliche as I thought when they say your network is your net worth and things of that nature. How critical is that for you?
Very, very, especially in the McDonald's business, both businesses, but especially McDonald's, because it really is a set of very shared expectations, and shared outcomes that are tied to them. So we work unbelievably closely with our company partners. So all the folks on the company side, we're in constant communication with them. On this, measuring the standards. Fellow operators, there's advertising co-ops. So the marketing is done at the national level and at the local level for all of our marketing. So, you see a Super Bowl commercial, obviously that's a national commercial.
Right.
And so there'll be a representative from different co-ops, advertising co-ops, that would go to national and make those national decisions. But across the U.S. system, there's 53 kind of local business units, and in those units, marketing decisions are made locally, and they're made by the company, an agency we hire, and the collective group of operators. So in my case, like in Philly or in Baltimore, I'm in two different advertising co-ops. There's 40, 50 owner operators that you're collaborating with. So those relationships matter, because if those relationships are good and strong and connected and aligned, the results are better. When they're fragmented and this person wants to do this person wants to do this, the results just, you can see the results are just not as good. So relationships really, really matter in this business.
I would have never thought that it was like that. And I didn't. And it's interesting when you talk about the marketing aspect, because I know obviously on a national level, McDonald's does a ton of marketing, but I never would have thought that it was that localized in terms of how you guys come about doing marketing campaigns. And I know because we're in Delaware, Delaware's a special place because we're in between DC, Baltimore, and then we have New York on one side and PA on the other side. How does that marketing positively or negatively affect you in some ways? Because being in Kent and Sussex it's not Baltimore, right? It's not Philly. It's Kent and Sussex in Delaware. How does that affect the business for you?
Good question. It does not as much. So because I think the most important thing being in Sussex County, especially Eastern Sussex County, is the seasonality. So in the summertime, a lot of my customers, they don't live around here. They're coming from other markets. So they may be used to seeing messages from other markets. They come down here and they're like, why can't I get this? Why can't I get this promotion? Well, because we don't advertise that down here. But that's becoming less and less. And mainly the reason why is because digital is such a broader reach. And so, it used to be really about the TV signal. So that was how you primarily reached your guests.
It's completely different now.
Right. So if Philadelphia or someplace in New Jersey was running some special, it wasn't necessarily the same special or the same deal that we were doing down here in Southern Delaware. It's a lot, and there's been a lot of consolidation of the advertising co-op. So more broader areas now. So most of your customers are getting the same messages. So I would say for the most part, we've been able to kind of, in terms of message and consolidate and make it a little bit easier for our customers.
Man, so many things about McDonald's that I just had no idea. I want to kind of start to kind of close it out a little bit. You just as a entrepreneur, you've been an entrepreneur your whole life, right? What are some of the things that you as a young entrepreneur, if you could talk to yourself as a young entrepreneur, as opposed to now as a seasoned entrepreneur, what are some of the things that you would tell yourself, and what could you give to some of the people who are just kind of starting out in their entrepreneurial journey, whereas like, hey, it could really help them down the road?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, at the core of it, it is attitude. Doors open when you have a positive attitude and a smile. Doors open when you are willing to work as hard as you can. I mean, it is just, it's a daily grind. I don't focus on the end zone. I focus on the next first down line. I mean, it just,
Ooh.
it's a journey, right? And so if you're starting out in business, or if you want to get to a certain point that you aspire to, I mean, I have a lot of young folks that when I come in the restaurants, they see me working, and I love it when they ask me these questions because they aspire to get to this. It's just focus on what you're responsible for. Don't try to focus on what your boss's boss is responsible for. That's not your problem to worry about right now. Do your own thing, stay in your lane, and just realize that, hard work every day, doing this, just coming in and doing your best every day with a great attitude. It's just impossible to fail. At least in the McDonald's business, it is. Ray Kroc wrote a book called Grinding It Out. He was a grinder. I'm a grinder. The best people I know in this business, the best franchisees, they're grinders. They just every single day we just grind it out, and the results come. It's just been that way, and it's been that way for McDonald's is coming up on 70 years old.
70 years old.
Yeah.
And you've been around for a long portion of that 70 years, and which is why you're so experienced and you're at the point where you're at. So outside of McDonald's, outside of the hotels, what's next for Mike? What is in the latter parts of Mike's career? What's next for you?
I think from next week, I want to, I'll be 60 years. I'll be 60 in June. So I got a little runway still left in the businesses that I'm doing. At the end, and we didn't get a chance to touch on this. My grandfather made just the biggest impression on me. My grandfather was a CEO of 3 different Fortune 500 companies.
Oh, wow.
But he did something amazing. He established a family foundation a number of years ago. And it's become one of the larger family foundations in the state of Maryland, and we serve on that foundation. So now, as a second or third generation, I'm on there. My daughters are just now coming on as kind of 4th generation in this family foundation. But at the core, I think the best thing that you can say for anybody is to come. When you come to the end of your life, you come in skidding in, torn up, beat up, clothes tattered and torn, and you come in with nothing because you worked as hard as you can, and at the end you found a way to just give it all back. And so if I look to what my last if I get to a point where if I could live long enough to be in my mid 80s or 90, that last 15 20 years, what I'd like to do is just give most of it back, give it all away. And so get to a point where you're really kind of helping others, and we're getting there. We still got some building to do before I think it's ready to start giving it away. But I think that I get tremendous personal satisfaction, kind of affirmation that you're just helping somebody else along the way. Whether you're helping somebody kind of get into this business, or you're just doing something to kind of help the community along the way. It's just not something I do because somebody tells me I should. It's certainly not something I do because the accountant says this is good for your taxes. I do because it's the right thing, and it makes me feel like I've done what I'm expected to do as a human being in the community with what I've been given, which I've been very fortunate.
Man, Mike, first off, I gotta say thank you. I know we've been planning this one for a few months, and thank you so much. I just, I recall as I was going through Leadership Delaware last year, and we came down to Sussex. It was 3 folks from that entire session that stuck out to me because of the things that y'all was doing. You, Jim Perdue, and Alex Pires. And I was just like, listen.
I can't tell you how much it makes me feel good that you would put me in that category, because those 2 cats are for real. They are successful. They are bigger than life entrepreneurs, and they are certainly mentors that I look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I do appreciate, me being an entrepreneur, me being in the space that I'm in. I appreciate, people being willing to pour in to me and give me some of their time, because your time is critical and important. So I do thank you for that. But like I said, man, coming to Sussex, it was y'all 3. That was y'all 3 that kind of was like, I need to absolutely cultivate and build a relationship with these gentlemen, because, you guys have wisdom and knowledge that, sometimes people never get access to this wisdom and knowledge. I remember as I was younger. So to your point, in terms of like you talking about your father and your grandfather, right? My dad owned a music store when I was young, right? So I was running around in the music store, but then my grandfather, he had a car detailing business my entire life up until he passed away. So like when you talk about the grind and the hustle and watching your dad and working with your grandpa, like that's also me, right? Because I could tell any car from 1930 up till 2024, I could tell you every car, I could tell you what's inside of it and all the things, because I did it so much with my grandfather. And as I'm walking through life, I just remember all the little things that he just used to say to me when we were eating breakfast at 6 a.m. about to go grab, I'm just, right. His voice just rings in my mind. So I appreciate your story so much more because of your roots and where you came from. And once again, I thank you so much for giving me some time. So Mike, is there anything that you want to leave with the folks before we go?
No, Malcolm, I really appreciate the opportunity. As you could tell, I pinch myself every morning. I love what I do. I love being an entrepreneur. I love the opportunities that McDonald's has given me. Mm-hmm. It is an unbelievable business. The opportunities that this McDonald's business in particular creates for people, there's just no limit. And I just love being part of it. And I love being part of Sussex County and Kent County and Delaware. And anyway, just the opportunity to talk to you and to see you again. And I hope that Jen invites me back to talk to the Leadership Fellows this year.
I'm 100% sure she will.
I hope she does. Whether it's something for Kent, either way, I love telling the story. It's fun.
Man, Mike, once again, thank you so much for coming onto the Principal Protocol and having this conversation with me. And for everybody who's watching, you guys can follow me at Malcolm Locks everywhere, Malcolm Meoli on LinkedIn. You can also follow the Principal Protocol and Malcolm Locks on YouTube. Mike, once again, thank you. And we are out.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Yes, sir.